What's up, Vault Dwellers? Dan here, and welcome back to the History of Sexploitation. When the news films got too sleepy to sell tickets, a former combat photographer named Russ Meyer, he had a better idea. They called them the Nudie Cuties, and for about 4 glorious years, they were the biggest bargain in American cinema. Micro budgets in, and fortunes come out. So today, we have Nudie Cuties ranked by how hard each one made me laugh or made me cry. We've got some monsters, a musical, and a future Oscar winner who would rather you forget all about this conversation today. All right, let's roll. All right, let's get started with the naughty shudder from 1963, which might make you actually shudder, mostly because of how much mileage the filmmaker squeezes out of a camera and a folding screen. And this here is a deep, deep grindhouse obscurity film, and it was so lost for years that only something weird actually bothered to dig it back up. This is set in a hotel packed with kitchen sink crowd of drunks, spies, and some peepers, but the whole show hangs on one gizmo. It's a magic camera, and if you take a picture of someone, the developed photo will show them standing there without any clothes on, which I do believe I had a dream about that when I was 13.
I'd like to see that one myself.
And here is how they pulled that effect off, and it is a work of budget-defying art. They stood the clothed actor still, took a photo, sent the actor behind a screen to get undressed, then took a second photo. That's the entire trick. Obviously, this is long before Photoshop, and all it took was patience and a room divider. I think my favorite touch is a subplot about dedicated nudists who winter in the hotel, keeping their tans topped off with desktop sun lamps in the dead of January. And why does this film make the list? Because it's the Nudie Cuties core fantasy made literal. Every one of these movies is about a man who wants to see through clothing and never lay a finger on anybody. And here's a whole plot built around a machine that does exactly that. The director is credited as Sammy Helm, which is just almost certainly not their real name, which is fitting, a fake name for a fake camera in a film about fake ways to undress the whole world. All right, moving on to Erotica from 1961, which is what you name a movie when you want everyone to know what it's about. This was Meyer's attempt to go classy with its genre. Yeah, classy, right? Like my channel's classy. And this is an anthology dressed as a highbrow documentary about how movies get made, which is just a very fancy frame for pointing his camera at naked women. And Meyer, being Meyer, he totally knew it. He liked this one so little that he yanked it out of distribution himself, which makes it one of the rarest films he's ever shot. But here is a story that makes it earn its spot on this list. Hugh Hefner, a man who had professionally seen a few things, watched Erotica and was so stunned by the lead model's proportions that he telephoned Meyer personally to ask for her measurements. Meyer's answer? Well, she went right off the scale. He said they had to start using hat sizes. Okay, just sit with that for a second. The founder of Playboy called for a second opinion. That is Russ Meyer's real gift to life and film. Even his failures came with a phone number that Hugh Hefner would dial. Paging Dr. Sex, please come to number 8. So Dr. Sex from 1964 is the moment the doctor was in, and the Nudie Cutie started running a temperature. This one sits right at the border of our era because by 1964, the pure silliness of this type of movie was already curdling into something a bit more talkier. The setup, well, it's a sexologist and his bumbling assistants, and they're working through a parade of patients with just absurd romantic hang-ups. Each one a little vignette of neurosis and some peekaboo. All so the movie can stage bedroom farce and file under medical research. slap a white coat on a striptease, and suddenly it's science. Now, the director, Ted V. Mickles, and if that name means anything to you, it's probably for what came later. Mickles went on to make cult schlock horror, including this ditty called The Corpse Grinders, and it's about a machine that turns people into cat food. So the man calmly diagnosing love troubles in this one was only a few years away from doing that. Dr. Sex earns his spot because it's the hinge, right? You can hear the giggly cutie clearing its throat and reaching for a clipboard. The plots, they get talkier, and the framing gets more and more clinical, and the innocent look but don't touch gag began mutating into sexology and psychology films that would take over next. Everybody in this era was just passing through, on their way to something a bit weirder. The Dr. Sex, it's just the waiting room. All right, giddy up, partners, because we're going to talk about Wild Gals of the Naked West from 1962. And this is a story of how the West was won and how the wardrobe was lost. This one's a Russ Meyer's cowboy spoof, narrated by the ghost of a wheezing old frontier codger looking back on a town he just swears was wilder than Tombstone and Dodge City combined. A mysterious gunfighter called the Stranger, he rides in to clean the place up, which mostly means surviving a town of hopeless marksmen, relentless practical jokers, and man-hungry saloon gals with names like Golden Nuggets. And I am not kidding, the bosom. There is no story in this movie. There is no point in this movie. There is just manic, sunburned, what the fuck energy going on everywhere. And here is the part that I love, because it's pure low-budget genius. Meyer could not afford interior sets, not a single one. So he shot almost the whole movie in extreme close-ups against plain colored backdrops. So you'd never clock that there were no walls or no doors or even any furniture. He built an entire western town out of empty space and tight framing. But this one matters for what it broke, not what it built. Wild Gals landed with a lukewarm shrug at the box office, and that shrug is one of the most important sounds in the whole series. It's what convinced Russ Meyer that the Nudie Cuties had run their course. 2 years later, he made Lorna, traded the giggles for violence, and personally kicked off the Roughies. The trail ends right here, partners, in a town made of close-ups. Next stop, we're gonna go dark. At number 6, we've got Not Tonight, Henry from 1960. And that took the most famous headache excuse in all of marriage and turned it into a full-color box office smash. Our hero, Henry, he's a hen-pecked husband who slumps into his local bar and escapes into a string of daydreams, casting himself as history's great lovers, opposing opposite figures like Cleopatra, Josephine, and Delilah, all of them wearing considerably less than the history books described. He gets to be the leading man his wife won't let him be, one fantasy at a time. The movie is plotless by design. One trade paper called it a G-string of an idea, which is the kindest and most accurate review a Nudie Cutie probably ever got. This one made actual real money. Filmed in 9 days in glorious Eastman color, it set an all-time house record at Los Angeles theaters with over $100,000 from a single 15-week run. And it got a gift most films would kill for. The night before it opened, the Vice Squad raided the theater and seized the print. That is free publicity hand-delivered by the police. And why does this movie matter? Because it proved the template. Take a nobody, a henpecked everyman, let him daydream a parade of undressed women, shoot it in color, and watch the drive-ins line up. That daydream anthology structure, one ordinary man and his imagination doing all the work, became the skeleton for dozens of these films. Henry's wife, she said not tonight. Los Angeles said all week, baby, and it's sold out. Mondo Topless from 1966 is where the whole innocent party just goes completely over the top and then packs up and leaves. This is Meyer, again, closing the era out with a go-go documentary, and this movie is just relentless. Topless dancers shimmy on rooftops, in fields, in a moving convertible, and, most gloriously, out in the open desert next to startled cactus, while a narrator hypes their wild abandon like a carnival barker who has far too much coffee. Again, no plot, not even any dialogue, just narration, some surf guitar, and editing that never once sits still. And this was cheap even by these standards, because Meyer built big chunks out of it from like literal garbage. He dug through his own editing room trash, pulled out outtakes and screen tests from earlier films, stitched the scraps together with a voiceover. Yesterday's cutting room floor became today's feature film. He hauled these dancers out to the desert mostly to dodge the cost of a location permit. It makes the list as a bookend. By 1966, the Nudie Cuties had dropped their last pretense. No story, no gag, no henpecked husbands, really no excuses at all. Just bodies in motion, some noise, sold to you as a documentary. And that's the sound of one era ending and a louder, meaner one starting up. And the cute was almost over. Now, pay attention to the spelling of this movie, because we're going to talk about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, B-A-R-E-S, from 1963, which is a film that asks the fairy tale question, what if the porridge stayed hot, but the clothing did not? This was sold as the very first nudist musical, and it means exactly what it says. A nightclub crooner and his comic sidekick track his girlfriend to a nudist resort. They join up, and the cast proceeds to sing and dance their way through the clothes-free lifestyle, choreography, volleyball, and all. The behind the scenes is somehow a little bit more absurd than the film. One featured player was a former world light heavyweight boxing champion, Joey Maxim, and he was cast as a nightclub owner who was reportedly so lost with his dialogue that he read his lines straight off the cuffs of his own shirt. But the real reason this one gets to me, it's the man behind the camera, credited as Lewis H. Gordon. That is a thin disguise for Herschel Gordon Lewis. I'm sure you remember that name, because within months of finishing this bloodless little sing-along about a naked volleyball, that same man would pour buckets of red paint across the screen in Bloodfest and personally invent the gore film. The godfather of splatter made a nudist musical. And when a historian later told Lewis this long-lost movie had resurfaced, his exact words were, "Oh my, I hope not." It matters because it's the genre at its most gloriously silly, made by the very man who was about to drag exploitation somewhere very, very dark. Here we are with another little, was a double entendre they call these, House on Bear Mountain, B-A-R-E. 1962 is a monster mash where the only thing getting stripped is the wallpaper's dignity. The setting is a girls' school run by a strict old headmistress named Granny.
Hi there. Come on in. My name's Granny Good.
And the whole thing builds a Halloween masquerade where Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and a werewolf all come lumbering in. And here's the joke. Faced with a house of undressing co-eds, the monsters completely forget they're supposed to be terrifying and settle in for a peep show. Dracula, he doesn't want their blood, he wants a better angle. The behind-the-scene facts are what kind of makes this movie. Granny, the prudish headmistress, she is just shrieking at everyone to behave. And she's played by the film's own producer, Bob Cresse. He's in full drag. Yeah, wig, dress, the works. He ran the production from behind the camera and yelped at monsters in front of it, all just to avoid paying for one more actress. That is thrift that you'd need to respect. This movie earns its place because it invented something completely here. Historians credit it as the first nudie monster rally. The picture that welded the horror movie and the Nudie Cutie into one goofy-ass creature flick. that crossover instinct, bolting sex onto a whole other genre, it's the seed, and down the line it grows into full-blown horror sexploitation. But for one Halloween in 1962, the scariest thing in the haunted house was a room of cheerfully unclothed schoolgirls and Dracula and the Wolfman drooling. All right, the complete opposite for Not Tonight Henry is Tonight for Sure, 1962, and it's the movie a future Academy Award winner would pay good money to erase. And I am delighted to report that this exists. The plot, such as it is, throws two men together at a Sunset Strip burlesque club, a prudish morality crusader and a scruffy desert prospector who team up to sabotage the joint and shut it down, passing the time by swapping voyeuristic tall tales. One of those tales is about a cowboy who takes a knock to the head and starts seeing cattle as naked women. That is a real thing that happens in this movie. And the director of all of this is a 22-year-old kid named Francis Ford Coppola. You know the one, right? 12 years before Godfather Part 2 won him an Oscar, Coppola stitched his first feature together for $500 out of two unrelated shorts, one his and one a shelved cowboy number glued with new footage. To score his debut, he hired his own father, Carmine Coppola, and a young Jack Hill, another future cult legend, working the camera. This is why the Nudie Cutie matters more than it looks. It wasn't only a cash grab, it was a film school with the lights off. It trained people. The men who gave us the Corleones learned the job on a picture about hallucinating livestock. So the next time somebody tells you the road to greatness runs in a clean line, you remember where this one began. Everybody starts somewhere. Just some start naked. And at number one, it's the only, it's the Immoral Mr. Tease from 1959. It's the film that put the tease in striptease and kicked the entire genre into being. The setup could not be simpler. A mild little delivery man visits the dentist, gets a bad reaction to anesthesia, wakes up with a curse disguised as a gift. He can now see certain women around him with no clothes at all. And then the movie just follows him through an ordinary day while it just keeps happening. The dental nurse, the secretary, a waitress at the bar, 3 women swimming down at the river. And finally, the psychoanalyst he goes in for help, who, of course, he sees in the buff as well. And here's the sneaky smart part of this film. At first, he's like delighted, and then slowly he gets embarrassed. I mean, even miserable, while the narrator dryly notes that some men are happy to be sick. It's a dirty joke with a melancholy little soul. Meyer shot it in 4 days in Oakland, part of it in a dentist buddy's office. No real script, and it grossed over $1 million. By one estimate, spawned 150 imitators inside a single year. And it matters because it is the blueprint. A passive man doing nothing but looking, no touching, no sex, comedy as the cover story. Every film we covered tonight is a variation of this film. And the star wasn't even an actor. He was Meyer's eccentric woodworker pal, reportedly drunk the whole shoe, who then demanded a cut once it struck gold. And you know what? The guy probably earned it, because he's patient zero, and this is where it all begins. So that is the Nudie Cutie, the genre's innocent, giggling childhood. For 4 short years, all of it wanted to do was make you laugh and take a look. But innocence is a phase, folks, and phases come to an end. Once audiences got used to seeing skin, a laugh stopped being enough. They wanted to feel something sharper than a giggle. And a new crop of filmmakers were happy to oblige by adding the one ingredient the cuties never had, cruelty. Next time, in part 4, we have the roughies, where exploitation grows some teeth. The playlist is in the description, and until then, keep it weird, folks.